How's it going, guys? Winter Kills here, and welcome to a brand new episode of One Deck One Month with Drytron. If you haven't seen last week's episode, I'll leave a link to it up in the top right for you guys to check out so you can get all caught up. But for those that did see the episode, you would know that last week we had a 2-2 finish for our first week with Drytron. Yeah, obviously not the best start. It always seems like every time we do this series, the first week is always the worst week. I don't know if that's always been the case. I'm assuming there's definitely been one time where we've done this where we went 3-1 the first time, because we've never gone 4-0 yet, but we're changing that this month. We are. Mark my words. But I just kind of wanted to bring you guys up to speed on what has happened this past week as we head into Saturday. And obviously, I think we all know the main reason behind my poor performance last Saturday, as I mentioned several times in that video. Getting 5 hours of sleep before you go to a tournament is not a good thing. I mean, maybe some people can play like that, just not me, right? I'm not built like that. Okay, I need some good sleep before I play. But I did go to locals this last Tuesday, and I'll give you guys what my matchups were. Round one, I played against this really cool like Nephthys Ritual deck. It was running Diviner and everything like that. It was actually pretty cool. I think I lost, or no, I think I won die roll, opened up a very bad hand into some hand traps, and then like game two, I just OTK'd him, and then like game three he bricked, and that's how I ended up winning that match. Round two was versus Dino. The guy was still putting together the deck and was missing a lot of really good cards like Archosaur and all that stuff, so very swift 2-0 there. Round three, we played against Invoked Dragoon, which the entire purpose of this deck was to use the Trickstar cards to make Anaconda, and then use the Invoked engine to get into Mechaba, blow up everything going second, and then swing in for game. And it played like 20 hand traps or something like that. And needless to say, we got our back blown out playing into multiple hand traps every time. Just like way more hand traps than I knew what to do with. And then round four, we played against Goki Codebreaker, where I think I went first and did full combo, won. And then game two, he went first, did full combo. Really I could play through some of it, but, you know, eventually I had to pass it back to him, and he was able just to go for game there anyways. Or I think he made Appaloosa, which just is like an FTK against my deck, and I didn't see Dark Ruler, I didn't see any hand traps or anything. And then game three, I remember this board specifically because this happened a couple days ago, but I ended on Link Karibo, Mirage Light, and 2 sets. And those 2 sets were Blizzard, right? That quick play spell that I was testing out last week, which is, by the way, still in my side deck right now. And I set both Blizzard, and I think I had like 1 fairy in hand or something like that. And my opponent starts with Red Eyes Fusion. I'm like, all right, bet. So we flip up Blizzard, target the Red Eyes Fusion, negate the effect, and return it to his hand, and he's locked out of normal or special summoning for the rest of the turn. So he sets one, sets a monster, passes turn. Next turn I get into Zeus, right, swinging for a little more damage, and next turn he starts with Red Eyes Fusion yet again, and we Blizzard it back, and he scoops after that because it's another turn of him basically not being able to normal or special summon, right? We have Vanity's Emptiness, but even better just because he's playing Red Eyes Fusion, and he was really hoping that I would have used the Mirage Light to negate the Red Eyes Fusion, but he had Triple Tactics Talent. I mean, that's why he was hoping I used it, because he wanted to use that talent that was just burning a hole in his hand. But the Blizzard just wouldn't let him do it. And I said this after, I'm like, it wouldn't be winter, right, if I didn't have a couple of Blizzards hanging around, right? All right, I just had to get that one out on the camera. But we did go 3-1 that local. And I'm hoping we can do just as good, if not better, in this upcoming Saturday here. But I think the next thing I want to talk about is exactly what changes I've made to the deck list as we head into this Saturday. And to be totally honest, it's not a lot of changes, but we'll go ahead and talk about that next. So yeah, we're gonna be giving the pre-prep engine one more try, maybe 2 more tries, but I think I'm gonna be giving it one more try in a tournament setting, just because like prep plus pre-prep is just literally game every time. It's one of the highest ceiling openings this deck has, and I do want to give it another tournament because I don't think one tournament is enough testing, and it did prove to be very good on this past Tuesday, so I want to take it to one more Saturday locals and just give it one more chance in a tournament setting, because again, I don't think we have enough time with this particular engine for me to decide whether or not I want to cut it, but I'm leaning more towards cutting the engine. because like the added space from taking out the pre-preps and everything is like looking very, very enticing. But other than that, still kind of debating on like talents versus prosperity. I think those are the only two things right now. I know having more going second cards is definitely like a bonus with this type of deck, but also seeing Drytron names is very, very important. Oh, and I made sure this past Tuesday we went down to 40 cards, and we're playing 40 cards this Saturday as well. So, and yeah, real quick before I wrap this segment up, I'll just go ahead and put a picture up on the screen here of what the deck list actually currently looks like. This is the list that we're going to be taking to locals this Saturday, so I just wanted to go ahead and share it with you guys. I'm trying to share it with you guys more as the series goes on, so you can see how it starts, how it changes, and how it evolves. So I'm really happy with it for the time being. You got talents in the main, pre-prep, all that stuff. So we're also playing Black Rose in the extra deck too, because I'm going to give that a shot over the Chaos Ruler, even though I really like Chaos Ruler a lot in theory. But we're going to test it out. And yeah, that's all I wanted to update you guys on for now. The next time I see you guys, it will be Saturday. So alright guys, it is almost 6 o'clock and I'm going to go ahead and start getting ready to leave for locals. I actually got this brand new camera case down here the other day, and that's going to come in super clutch because it means I only need to take one bag for camera gear now to the tournament, which is awesome. The less bags I have to bring in, the better. So I'm going to get everything all packed up and we're going to head out, and hopefully we can redeem ourselves on this week's episode of One Deck One Month. Alright, we are here. We are running a little behind, admittedly, but should have plenty of time to go in and set up the camera rig and get ready for round one. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so here we are in round two. We are fresh off of a win from round one. We ended up playing against Tenyi again. I know, right? What's with these round one Tenyi matchups? But luckily, he didn't have Vanity's Fiend for us this time, so we were able to take the match 2-0 rather quickly. And here in round two, we played against VW, and we played against a familiar face, somebody I used to go to tournaments with all the time, who took a few years break and is now back playing again, which is really awesome to see, and he's on the VW deck. Game one, I didn't record because I actually forgot to start recording, and I didn't realize until midway through game two that I had to start recording. So I tried to get as much of it as I possibly could, but game one, he kind of messed up his combo. I didn't end on the best board. It was like Beatrice, Mirage Light plus Link Karibo, and he still decided to scoop anyways. So we moved to game two, as you see here, as he finishes up his final board, going for Ptolemy M7 and Shen Shen. Yeah, Shen Shen is really only the biggest threat here. But I did side in Harpy's Feather Duster just for the back row. Chuchi mainly, because that card is going to kind of hurt as an interruption. So we start with the Duster, clearing the back row, and then we follow things up with Preparation of Rites to go grab none other than Cyber Angel Ben 10. Now my opponent does have Droll and Lockbird, but I'm lucky enough to have the Called by the Grave. And there it is, the fabled Alpha Ben 10 opening, Alpha pitching Ben 10. And you can imagine that Alpha is probably going to search us Ida 10 here, and Ben 10, I believe, grabs me a copy of Diviner. So, admittedly, I've been getting a lot better with these combos lately, and I'm able to just see Alpha Ben 10, how it plays out, how it's full combo, or even Alpha Zeta, so that's really good. We're making a lot of progress in terms of just learning how to actually play and operate the deck. So we then commit our normal summon to Diviner of the Heralds, and that is going to go ahead and send Elder Entity Entis here. Now, I really wish I could have sent Herald, but I do have to clear this Shen Shen sooner than later. I guess I technically didn't have to, But you know, the Entis is a really quick out. We use Nova to summon out Gamma, and then we use Zeta to tribute Gamma. So I guess that's actually why I wanted to do it, just so I could get a Gamma engrave and not lose it to the Shen Shen. Zeta is going to go ahead and grab us a copy of Meteonis Drytron. And from here we have a few options. We could go ahead and Ritual for Ben 10, go for the Ritual for Ida 10 here, and go for the Beatrice. Watching this back, I probably should have just made Mubeta first to dump another card, then Ritual out for Ben 10 and use Gamma to tribute Ben 10, and get a search there of another fairy to make my end board overall better. But I guess I just didn't see that line. For some reason, I've been really fixated on going for Ida 10 first, just because I mainly want to get the Ritual spell back to my hand, but I should just be summoning Ben 10 more and tributing it with the other names that I have engraved. So we summon Delta, and then we go ahead and get our draw. Then we Ritual out Ben 10, and now we're using Gamma here, tributing off the Ben 10 to go ahead and search Natasha. And then we're going to go ahead and use Meteonis to drop Alpha by 1,000 to add it back. Now we're going into Mubeta Fafnir, my opponent deciding to hold a very clutch Valor until that very exact moment. And Valor on the Mubeta Fafnir is incredibly strong. Mainly because you're not only turning off the send effect, but you're turning off the fact that I can get multiple Ritual summons out of the Meteonis, or out of the Mubeta. Because obviously, the effect that would let me detach as Ritual material is negated. And I would have to send off the entire Xyz monster instead of, you know, just detaching from it. So I decided to go ahead and do that here anyways, sending off the entire monster and Ritual summoning out Natasha, then linking Natasha and Beatrice into IP Masquerena, and then using Natasha here to take his M7. And I use his M7 here actually to add back a card in my grave to my hand after I use, at first I use Natasha, target his M7 to gain, I think, 1350. Detaches Charge Warrior, and I believe I add back Ben 10 for later on, because why not? And then I swing in for a little bit of damage and pass it over to him, feeling somewhat confident with the board that I have. The only issue is using Entis to clear his Shen Shen means he can just recur it from the graveyard, which can be somewhat problematic. And that's also just going to give him a free Virtual World card on field to work with. I probably should have used IP right now to go into Unicorn, and then just made it so he had to have had a normal summon to use his Lulu or something like City. And for some reason, I just decided to like shotgun the IP when I really didn't need to, because like it's not like it was stopping him from resolving the Lulu anyways, as he sends a copy of City, or King Long rather, to add Chuche. And I pitch a Dark Ruler no more out of my hand for the Unicorn, as that goes back to his extra deck. And right now, I know full well he could definitely just make Shen Shen again. Although I'm not feeling too bad about it, because Ben 10 is in my hand where I want it to be. Because if it's in grave, I only have to Ritual it out and then tribute it away, and then it gets banished, which I don't want to have happen. So luckily his M7 came in very clutch, giving me back my Ben 10 last turn. So, you know, if he does get Shen Shen back, it's not a huge loss. I can definitely try to play around it, at least for a little while. So, resolves Lulu here. I believe he added Lao Lao. And at this point, I'm realizing, yeah, the Lao Lao is going to be really, really good, allowing him to basically get into another level 9 synchro here for free, or he can go into another rank 6. He's going to go ahead and send a copy of Kowloon and summon the Lao Lao alongside it, GG. And then from here, I think he goes Synchro 9. But first, he's going to Synchro 6 into Coral Dragon, which he could use to discard to pop, or if he synchros with it, he could go ahead and draw a card as well to try to dig into a few more extenders. And keep in mind, he is still learning the Virtual World deck, so if he's not making the absolute best plays, bear with him. I mean, to be totally honest, I don't know Virtual World that well. I think it's one of the meta decks right now that I'm least familiar with. I'm definitely getting a little better with it. But I need to watch, you know, some more videos that showcase what VW can do and what its weak spots are and what the best things to hit are. I'm sure there's plenty of videos out there I could watch. I just have to get around to doing it. So he's going to go ahead and summon GG and then link, or not link, but synchro here. And I'm like, okay, here comes the Shen Shen. Here comes the Shen Shen that I just put back. That's what I'm thinking. But he actually goes for Vermilion Mech Dragon, which is rather interesting. And I guess I see why he did that. Because if he doesn't clear the Natasha by other means than battle, and then he's not going to be able to get over it. So this way he actually gets in more damage. Coral Dragon goes over the Unicorn, and then Vermilion Mech swings in, and that does it for his turn as he gets end phase. GG for Lulu. And I draw for turn, start with a copy of Preparation of Rites, which is huge right now because I can grab Meteonis back from the grave, as well as I add a copy of Herald of Perfection. Now pitching Ben 10 for Alpha, so we're going to go ahead and get 2 searches here, one for the Draconids and the other for the Diviner of the Herald. So this is one instance where I wish I was playing Black Rose, because I could just go ahead and Synchro right now and Black Rose destroy all cards on the field, all while getting my search from the Herald of the Arclight. And then I could just resolve Gamma to get into Mu Beta, and then summon out the Draconids and just try to put on as much damage as I possibly could. But I go for Delta here, revealing Meteonis to draw another card. And this is one thing that I kind of struggle with, is like trying to get to game quickly, because right now I feel like I'm making some unnecessary steps. Maybe not. Maybe the Delta was the thing that was really only unnecessary. But we go into Mu Beta. Mu Beta dumps a copy of Zeta. We use Natasha here because it does remember it was ritual summoned. That steals his Vermilion Mech. And then we use Zeta to go ahead and summon itself. And Natasha allows us to gain some more life points. And then I Synchro into Boral Sword. And then I just ritual summon out Draconids to put game on board 100%. And we take the match 2-0. Virtual World definitely is a hard matchup, but again, he was still learning the deck, so we got a little lucky there. Could have gone either way, but yeah, starting off great here, 2-0, and let's see if we can carry this momentum into our future rounds. Just finished our round 2 match. We played against Virtual World, and to be fair, he is returning to the game, so he's still learning a lot of the cards. He scooped early in game 1, which I don't think he should have, but I understand learning a new deck can be very difficult and very easy to get discouraged, so I understand that. But I opened 3 Drytron Nova in my opening hand. I don't think I showed it to the camera because I think I was actually not recording until game 2 started, so... But my opening hand game was like 3 Nova, Talents, and then 1 other card, and then I drew into a card that made my hand lie, but I just didn't have enough resources to keep continuing because I had 2 Novas in my hand that I couldn't do anything with. And then game 2, it was just Natasha cleaning everything up with a Boral Sword, a Draconids, and a Fafnir. One thing I actually learned recently too about Natasha is that the turn you summon it via ritual spell and bring it out and steal a card, like if you link it off and summon it back out, on the following turns, if it's still in the grave, you can actually just use it again, which I didn't know. I thought you had to ritual summon it again to make its effects live, but that's not the case. My friend Adam, who's a Drytron veteran, informed me that is how Natasha works, which makes things a lot easier trying to close games and later turns, so long as the Natasha doesn't hit the deck or go to the hand. It still remembers that it was ritual summon, so that's an important ruling to remember. So we're 2-0 right now, heading into round 3. And very optimistic. The second Meteonis that I put in has only come up 1 time, but in theory it's going to be really, really strong in the grind game especially. So yeah, I just wanted to update you guys real quick after round 2. So let's go ahead and see how the rest of the nights goes, and I'll see you guys after round 4 or round 3, depending. Alright, so in round 3, we ended up playing against a deck I definitely was not expecting, and that was Live Twin. But not only was it just Live Twin, it was Live Twin Eldritch. And Eldritch is a deck that I haven't come across in a very long time, and I'm very out of practice in playing against. And it's also a really good matchup against Drytron. But he wins die roll and starts with the Kiss a Kill, which I do hit with an orange light because I know how the live twin engine works, and I know that in most cases sometimes hitting the normal summon is really strong. So I opened double orange light, so I decided that I'd go ahead and negate it, and lo and behold, it ended up being correct, is because he just sets 3 and passes. I start with emergency to add alpha, and then I go alpha pitch Zeta to add Ben 10, and then pitching Ben 10 for Zeta to add Meteonis, and Ben 10 adds me a copy of Diviner. And then from here, I believe I follow up into Diviner using my normal summon. Again, this is another instance where I could have gone into Black Rose, but I decided not to, just because I wanted to be able to go into Mubeta Fafnir. And my Herald adds me the Ida 10. And you could see me wanting to go into Mubeta, because I was contemplating Black Rose, but I ultimately decided to just go for the Mubeta Fafnir anyways, to go ahead and try to dump another Drytron extender to the grave. And I go for the Mubeta, and it's met with a Solemn Strike, which, to be totally honest, does hurt quite a bit. It would have been much nicer knowing that a Black Rose would have gotten hit with the Solemn Strike, allowing me to possibly extend further. But it is what it is. I try to go to the battle phase with Diviner to swing in, and he activates Conquistador. So at this point, I'm aware that he is on the Eldritch engine. And unfortunately for me, I had no other Drytron names to work with there. Otherwise, I could have probably kept playing. And that's, I guess, another reason why I was hesitant to go for the Black Rose. But on his turn, he normal summons the Kiss a Kill and links it with his Conquistador to access the Evil Twin Kiss a Kill, which basically is one piece of his little extra deck Link 2 engine. Luckily, he does not have access to the Evil Blue or Frost. Otherwise, I would be in a lot more trouble than I already am. He goes to battle phase, runs over the Diviner, and then uses Conquistador to set another card through his Eldritch engine, and then passes it over to me. Where at this point, I'm really wishing I didn't have Triple Tactics Talent in my main deck, because this is just a really bad matchup to have that card. And it's also kind of a downer that I never let him get to his live twin engine and let it get going, because if I would have done that, my talents probably would have been live, but hindsight is 20/20 at the end of the day. So right now, the only 2 Drytron names I have access to are Alpha and Zeta, and I'm very, very susceptible to a Hekaro or a well-timed DD Crow, because I just do not have enough Drytron names. But luckily, I draw into a Zeta. I pitch Zeta for Zeta to add Dawn of the Herald. And right there, I did not see him use any Hekaros, anything like that. So I'm like, all right, maybe we're in the clear. So I go ahead and use Meteonis, tributing Zeta to attempt to ritual summon. Now, you don't have to specify where you're ritual summoning from. So I go to bring back Ben 10, or at least my opponent assumes that's what I'm going to do. And unfortunately, he goes ahead and makes the heads-up play to use Hekaro. That's Chainlink 1, Sanguine, Chainlink 2. Sanguine, of course, will summon Golden Lord here, and then Hekaro will summon itself to the field to banish the Ben 10, forcing me to have to resolve Meteonis by summoning an Ida 10 from my hand, which isn't so bad. Ida 10 is going to try to add back the Meteonis, and he has impermanence for that. So I'm basically just getting stopped in every aspect here. I have another Meteonis in hand. I have a talents, and I have Dawn of the Herald. There's not much I can do. So my only follow-up is to go for Alpha, tributing the Ida 10, and I can add a ritual. I can either add Natasha, Draconids, or Perfection. I don't really have many options. I really wish I could search another Ben 10. Not that it would matter so much, because I don't have any more Drytron names to tribute said Ben 10. So I go ahead and link my Alpha into a copy of Link Karibo, and I believe I pass my turn on that. Just hoping he can't kill me next turn, because I'm thinking, he's on Eldritch. What are the odds that he could possibly kill me with this deck out of nowhere? I know he could probably put a lot of damage on, but I'm not expecting an OTK. And if he does, well, it's not so bad. We're just going to go to a game 2. But as expected, he doesn't do much. Goes into the battle phase, hits me for a little bit of damage, and was debating on going into more Link plays. But I ultimately don't think he did. I was really hoping he would make some sort of monster that would allow me to use talents on my turn, but he just proceeded to use Sanguine to set Conquistador and set another back row and pass it to me, and I was like, oh boy, another turn of having a dead talents in hand. I do draw a Cyber Emergency, which is a sign of hope here, and I'm just hoping that he doesn't have another Hekaro this turn, as I add a copy of Gamma to my hand off the Emergency. because if he had a Caro, it's going to spell game, basically. So I pitched Gamma for the Alpha, and lo and behold, he had another copy of Hikaru in his hand, which is going to banish the Alpha, and then having, a Natasha in hand with 2 ritual spells and a talents, there's really not much I can do, so I tribute the Natasha to bring out Gamma and the Zeta, and, we all know what his last set is. It's Conquistador. And he knows how my deck works, and he knows he can deny me access to Mu Beta Fafnir right now if he so desires. So he summons out Conquistador, and Conquistador is going to go ahead and pop the name I've already used, in this case Gamma. And after this, there's not much I can do, so I scoop it up and we head into game 2. And in game 2 here, I do decide to go first as expected, and I also decide to keep in Triple Tactics talent. Now, I know what you're probably thinking, why would you keep that card in? It was so dead last game against this deck. Well, that was mainly because I had to go second into his board of basically trap monsters. So of course there was no way I was going to be able to make it live, but I figured this time around, since I was going to go first, my opponent knew I was going to go first, right? I might as well keep it in to try to protect from and play through hand traps. So I had normal summon Diviner here and dump the Herald. I thought my Herald was going to add me Ben 10, but I decided it would be better to add Meteona since I had a copy of Preparation of Rites in hand. So I almost missequenced things. So I used Herald to grab Meteonis, prep to go ahead and grab Ben 10. Now, it might look like I'm off to a really good start right now, but I'm actually not. I only have 1 Drytron in hand, and that's Gamma. So I summon Gamma by pitching Ben 10. My opponent tries to DD Crow the Ben 10, but luckily I have a called by for it, and Ben 10 is going to go ahead and search me a copy of Ida 10, and right now I basically just have to try to get into Beatrice, and I go ahead and ritual off the Gamma, and go ahead and overlay the Ida 10 and Diviner into the Beatrice. Beatrice will send a copy of Alpha from the deck to the grave. Now, this wouldn't be such a rough opening hand if I didn't have to, like, tribute the Gamma off to ritual summon, because I could just use the Alpha right now to tribute off the Gamma that I had on board. But luckily, I do have a talents, which allows me to draw 2 here. I can't afford to look at his hand because I need to draw into another name. Luckily, I find a Nova. I activate Nova, and that's going to go ahead and summon Delta. I use Alpha, tributing Delta to go ahead and add a copy of Herald of Perfection to try to set up my board. I use Delta, tributing Alpha, reveal Perfection to go ahead and draw into another card. And I think I've drawn into Blizzard at this point, which is kind of feeling pretty good. Meteonis tributes off the Delta to summon the Perfection. I set a Blizzard and pass into my opponent's draw phase. I go ahead and use Ava, or go ahead and use Beatrice to send Ava. Ava banishes Herald and Diviner to go ahead and add Orange Light and Diviner. So I pass turn with 3 fairies in hand, so 3 interruptions, feeling pretty good about it. My opponent leads with a very strong opening of Golden Lord pitching itself with Sanguine to attempt to send my Perfection. Of course, I have to burn 1 negate there by pitching Orange Light. And next, my opponent tries to use Scarlet Sanguine and Grave to reset another trap, which, hindsight, I definitely should have negated this because at that point, I stop him from getting more traps to his grave, because the one he sets off of Scarlet, he tries to send to grave for cost for Golden Lord, and I have to negate that as well because I can't let him get the Golden Lord out at 35. He sets 3 and then passes it over to me here. And right now, I'm feeling like I'm in a pretty good position. The only problem is I can't game him, at least not yet anyways, and I have to definitely play through some backward to try and do that. So trying to find game here as quickly as possible is going to be easier said than done. I normal Diviner to send Herald and activate Herald, which he does chain Scarlet Sanguine to, and I don't think he chains anything else. No, he just activates Sanguine to summon Golden Lord, and my Herald goes ahead and searches me a copy of Natasha here, which I think is not a bad idea because I can steal his Golden Lord, or at least try to. Try to push for a game with that. So my opponent wants to read the Natasha, understandable because the card is admittedly really, really strong. So I have pretty much every Drytron name engraved except for Zeta, so I have to pitch the Natasha in my hand to try to summon the Gamma. My opponent chains Conquistador and Hikaru, And using both of those here is really, really strong because he clears the only ritual off my field to try to play off of, and he also banishes my Gamma, completely stopping me from making any plays whatsoever. And then I'm forced to just link it to a Mirage Light and pass. I don't know if there's anything else I should have done there differently. Like, he just happened to have Hakero and Conquistador, like, and Sanguine, like, which is just insane against me. Like, I got completely blown out there. I don't know what else I could have done. He Ixies summons into Pleiades. Pleiades bounces my Mirage Light, which is awesome for him because it's going to stop it from hitting the grave anytime soon and giving me back resources. So he swings in for 5,000, and he's able to go into the almighty Zeus Sky Thunder a little bit later. But first he plays the Sunny Snitch, which would give him access to his live twin engine, which is more than I'm willing to let him get right now. So I go ahead and use my Blizzard on that to basically bounce it back to his hand. I'm not sure if that should have gone back to his hand because of the way Blizzard is worded, or it should have stayed on the field, but I don't think it would have mattered. He's still able to go into Zeus, and then end phase, he goes ahead and uses Hakero Engrave and Scarlet Sanguine Engrave as well. And then I think he goes ahead and sets a Hakero and another Scarlet Sanguine. So he's really just playing the Hakero control game right now. He knows it's very, very good against me. He just has to keep picking off Drytrons out of my grave, and he's basically going to keep bowling me from playing here. But I luckily top deck a Cyber Emergency, which is kind of good. Maybe that's being a little too optimistic because at this point, I don't know if there's much I can do. I'm just trying to do everything in my power to try to just play it out and see if I can find a way to get through his Hakero and his Zeus, because that's all I got to get through. So my emergency adds me a Zeta, and I tried to alpha attributing Zeta, and he Hakeros. I was trying to bait the Zeus, but he never used it. He just Hakeroed first because I had another talents in my hand. So unfortunately, we get absolutely washed here in round 3, 2-0, and taking a hot L to Eldritch live twin. All right, so that was a pretty awesome round 4 match for us. We ended up playing against my friend Kevin, who was on the Infernoble deck, and we did get lucky and win the die roll. I feel like that's a very die roll dependent matchup. He was on the Infernoble Knights, and game 1 combo, game 2 he had combo, but I opened Dark Ruler Talents and emergency, a Delta and an Alpha. He takes both the Drytrons with the Dolphin, and then he Omegas me 3 times to get the rest of the cards out of my hand. So this one?
Yep. Why did he change?
He's like, where's the Dark Ruler?
I'm looking for the fucking Dark Ruler, bro!
I had hope right up until he had the 3rd DDR for the Omega to take the Dark Ruler, because I was drawing prep. So if I would able to keep the Dark Ruler is board, prep for Ben 10, Alpha Ben 10, I have the extra name with Delta, so like I would have won that one had he not opened the stones with that extra DDR copy, because I saw him search too. So
Pre-prep? Yes.
I will activate Dawn, tributing Ben 10.
Yes.
Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2. We finished 3-1. We got our store credit. We got our first place profile, Virtual World. You guys will see that in a little while. And yeah, now we're going to go ahead and head home, and we'll just finish up the episode. Alright, we are back from locals, and we ended up going 3-1, getting ourselves 15 store credit. I believe I've earned about 60 credits so far with this deck, 30 in this series alone, at least in the time frame that I've been doing it. So yeah, deck performed pretty well tonight. There's just a few things I want to touch on, just about how the overall locals went itself, and then some changes that I think I may want to experiment with or actually make and implement going into the next week. But overall, round 1 we played against Tenyi. Like, that was just like basically free. Round 2 we played against that virtual role player, who was a player that was really nice to see at locals again, because I remember playing in locals and tournaments with him many years ago, and he's back and on Virtual World. He's still learning it, so it's really awesome to see some old faces returning back to the game here. And round 3, we played against that Eldic Live Twin. My man Joe is just so cracked on pretty much every deck he plays. No, obviously, a little bit of hyperbole there. He is a good player, but the Eldic matchup is so tough. Akero is a crazy card, and not to mention the pop effect from Conquistador. Very good, keeping me off of things like Mubeta and out of synchro plays by popping like Diviner and things like that. Just a really good counter to the strategy we were on. And then the 4th and final round was against my good friend Kevin. Shout outs to Kevin for teaching me Infernoble and inspiring me to play the deck. But like, it was a very die roll dependent matchup, no matter how you put it. Like, both of our decks are just like super insane combo decks, and we want to go first. And if we pull off our end board, we're winning, right? So I got lucky, won the die roll. Although game 2, even though I went second, my hand was so strong. Like, I was actually a little shocked when I saw him actually go for the Omega a 3rd time and rip the final card out of my hand. You know, I guess it makes sense. The Dolphin initially showed the Dark Ruler, and at that point you have to go all out to get the Dark Ruler out of my hand. But just if you wouldn't have been able to do that, if I wouldn't have handed him the second DDR off the second power tool, I think I would have been fine, because I drew Prepper Rights for turn and I had a Alpha and Delta, and if the Dark Ruler would have stuck in my hand, Dark Ruler is board, play Prep to grab Ben 10, and then at that point I have 2 Drytron names in the grave and we're off to the races. But he takes game 2, and then the game 3 just pulled off the most disgusting field thanks to the pre-prep engine. Now that brings me to the next topic, which is the pre-prep engine. As you guys saw, when it works really damn well and like guarantees you the game almost. But the thing is, when it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You're drawing into pre-preps late game, which are terrible top decks, which when you need to be drawing Drytron names, drawing pre-prep really kills your chances of coming back. Drawing Dawn of the Herald on its own is just also really bad, and it's just not that consistent because you need to see both prep and pre-prep, or pre-prep and Ben 10, which is easier said than done. It's really awesome, but another thing that's really enticing is cutting the 3 pre-preps in the Dawn of the Herald and putting in like 3 more Drytron names, like a 3rd Gamma, a 2nd Delta, and like a Fafnir or a Foolish or something. Like, all of that is sounding very enticing, because there were a couple games today on the opposite end of the spectrum where I would have been able to do more if I would have opened more Drytron names. That just would have been so much better. So like, I think this week I'm definitely gonna try to go back off of the pre-prep engine and you know, play just Ultimateness again and throw in, you know, like more Drytron names and other utility cards. And I might even drop Meteonis back down to 1, because it was kind of a last minute thing. The second Meteonis only came up like 1 or 2 times, and obviously just 1 locals is not enough time to be able to tell whether or not playing a second one is warranted. I'll definitely have to try to get some testing in this week to see whether or not I should keep playing the second copy. But if I cut the second Meteonis and I cut the 3 pre-preps in the Dawn of Herald, I have 5 slots to put in a ton of awesome cards, 3 Drytron names, 2 utility cards. It sounds so good, almost as good as opening pre-prep prep. So I don't know what I'm going to do. That's kind of like the mental battle I have going on right now, is do I cut the pre-prep engine or do I leave it in and keep playing it? I mean, the list I did go 4-0 with wasn't running the pre-prep engine. I wasn't running Prosperity or Talent, so maybe if I just play that same list and incorporate Talents in there somehow, maybe we have ourselves the perfect list and the perfect balance. I don't know. We'll have to wait and find out. But thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. If you want to see more of my content, click on one of the videos popping up on the bottom of the screen right now, and we'll see you guys in the next one. And like always, a huge shout out goes to all of the Divine level channel members that go above and beyond to support, and they are Cadillacs84, Pony Stark, and Keith Siggers. Thank you guys so much as always for your extremely generous support of the channel.